I saw the light, I saw the light.
Hey everybody, it's Morgan and
Anna. Good morning.
coming to you live actually from my house because the internet's better here and we have more comfortable chairs and coffee.
Yes, the best coffee in town.
Yes. Gospel Two Wheels number 36. And we are here to talk with Anna. You're racking up more people than anyone else. It's like, see, Anna's famous. She doesn't want to admit that she's famous, but she's famous. We had a great ladies clinic night. Anna was there.
It was awesome.
And we are going to be doing lots more of that. So pay attention to the page. The next one is going to be a women's tire changing clinic, dirt bike tire changing clinic. Anna had an awesome idea. What was that?
Changing a tire out on the trail. How to do it.
So we're gonna actually maybe like go out in the dirt and do it. Okay. So let's start with Anna Cody. Anna, what was your first motorcycle?
It was a mini bike that my dad made, electric, with training wheels when I was 2.
Nice. So long before Osset came out, Anna was riding an electric mini bike.
I had the original Osset.
Yeah, the original Osset.
The 1970s style.
Yes. And why don't you tell everybody a little bit about where you grew up and just a little bit of the background into the dirt biking, because it's interesting.
Well, I grew up in Santa Barbara County, way out in the mountains, about 2.5 hours from town. My parents were the ultimate hippies, so they didn't want to live in town. And many times our only way to get to town in the wintertime was motorcycles. So our family was big into motorcycles. My mom used to race, and my dad.
Yes.
And we were a big Husqvarna family.
Nice.
That was what we rode for years.
Right on. And I've been to the house she grew up in, and it could not be more in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's impossible to describe how nowhere it is. It's hard to do in California these days. It's like, yeah, Roger says first off grid. Like, it was so far off grid. There wasn't really even a grid anywhere near it to be off of. It was before grid. But it is one of the coolest places ever. It's 160 acres, private in-holding in the middle of the Los Padres National Forest.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely incredible. So, Anna, how did we meet?
Well, and when I soloed the Baja 1000, Morgan was soloing it as well. And the guys that were helping me happened to meet Morgan out on a trail out here in Colorado and invited him to pre-run with us. And Morgan and I spent 1,000 miles with lots and lots of adventures pre-running. And that's where we became friends.
Yeah, it was craziness. Like, Anna had been racing the 1,000 for a while. Anna had been racing in Mexico and just racing in general for a long time. I had no clue what I was doing on a motorcycle, like zero. But I decided to race 1,000, and we've talked about that in another show. And yeah, we had these mutual friends. We get together, and I just remember thinking, like, there's this girl? Like, what? And I meet her. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know her background. And the long and short of that story is that at the end of the whole situation, she beat me by 3 hours. 3 hours she beat me in the 1,000. And so, yeah, I had no business pre-running with her. But it was super fun.
But I paid dearly for beating you for 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's been torture ever since.
Yeah. Because of that, now that my skills are up, I beat up on Anna and the rocks a lot. Tell the story about the reason you were on To Tell the Truth. What about the 1,000, like the first women's thing and all that?
Well, the Baja 1000, I mean, ever since I was a little kid, it was like a dream of mine to do. And then, you know, our dad used to come in, he'd go to town and he'd come back and with a backpack. And our first thing was to get the monthly dirt rider or not dirt rider, dirt bike back then. And, you know, I'd look up to guys like Bruce Ogilvie, Larry Rossler, Chuck Miller, Scott Harden, those kind of guys. And so I'd been racing for a while, and I decided that I wanted to race the Baja 1000. And Lily and I and a lady named Connie Joyce were going to race it. I had been doing the whole series that year. And Connie got hurt right before the race, so it just came down to Lily and I. And no all-women's team had ever finished the Baja 1000 on motorcycles. So we we're the first women to finish the Baja 1000, and
Yeah.
we also finished second in the 250 Pro class that year.
So they didn't just finish it; they dominated it. And what year was that?
That was 1990.
And what were you riding?
We were riding Larry Rossler's KDX 200 pre-runner. Kind of a long story. The bike that we had broke the day before. And so Larry gave us this bike. And Lily was the first woman to graduate from Motorcycle Institute. Mechanic? Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So she worked all day on that bike. And I don't even know how we finished. It was just a miracle. We were just flying by the seat of our pants.
Yes. And who was pitting for you back then?
Well, back then I rode for Kawasaki. So Kawasaki pitted for us.
Nice.
And it was pretty non-eventful. It was funny because I started the race, and Lily was tiny. Lily was like 110 pounds, and so the two of us tried to ride a motorcycle. It was pretty funny. And so I started, and I went up over the summit and came down through that wash and kind of to the first Kawasaki pit, and I see this girl. There, this tiny little person jumping like 5 feet in the air, or like waving, like I'm going to miss her. And I pull up, and she goes, "I can't do this. I can't get on the bike." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "You're not supposed to be here. You're the 9th overall bike."
Yes.
And back then I was just young and stupid and just ride as fast as I could ride. Well, I wasn't. I was taught well by guys to be smart. And I was like, "Look," and I had to shake her. I'm like, "You got to get on this bike, And she's like, "I won't hold this position." I'm like, "I don't care. Just go."
Yes.
So off she went.
Nice. That's awesome. And where did you finish overall? Do you know?
Well, I can't remember where we finished overall. About the last 50 miles, back then you used to start and finish in Ojos Negros. But then when you'd finish, you could ride into Ensenada and get the glory with all the people waving around and stuff. And so I left the last Kawasaki pit, and about a mile out, just the whole transmission just goes, and I'm like, "Oh no." So I turned around, and Dave Pyle, who was the Kawasaki mechanic, took the side cover off. He put it back on. He said, "Go out there and put it in the highest gear you got, and don't ever shift it again." And so I put it in 6 because the KDXs had 6 gears, and that was the longest 50 miles of my life. There was times I was in the silt up to my waist, clutching it, just and so this is the best story, one of my most fondest memories ever of Baja's. As I was coming into Ojos Negros, there's real wide roads that kind of go like this, and so the light was like barely moving. And I'm like, "Blah, blah, blah," and all of a sudden the lights up behind me, and I'm like, "Oh, she got a truck," So I kind of pull way over, and there's plenty of room, and truck's not going around me, and he's like flashing his lights, and so I get back in front. I go, "Well, obviously he's gonna, light the way for me." So cross the finish line, and I turn around, and those of right sitting smack in the middle of this truck was Iron Man Ivan Stewart.
Yes.
And he looked at me, and he's like, "Yeah," and he had a bad day, obviously. But, who gets Ivan Stewart to light your way to the finish line?
Yeah, that is awesome. In the mid-drive Toyota, right?
Yeah, right in the middle of the seat.
That is awesome.
One of the most awesome dudes around.
Yeah, one of the ultimate badasses of all badasses. Because of Anna, I've gotten to meet all sorts of cool freaking people, because everybody knows Anna down in Baja. Like, I got to meet Johnny Campbell, Bruce Ogilvie, Kendall Norman, Kendall's friends with the family from forever. Anna used to beat up on Kendall when he was a little kid. Right?
Yeah, his dad took me to the first race I ever raced.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding. How old were you when you did that?
12.
Nice. That is awesome. So that happens. Life goes on. Now you decide to solo the 1,000. And I'm pretty sure, I've told everybody this, I'm pretty sure it's true that you're the first, I think still only woman to solo it on a motorcycle?
There's been 2 others that have since.
But she was the first. So what made you decide to do that?
Well, yeah, that's
Anna
kind of a
Cody?
crazy thing. Again, another thing I had wanted to do, but Lily had gotten a real bad case of cancer and ended up passing away, I think in 2001. And so I decided that I would solo it and I would raise money for the Cancer Society. And in her honor, I wouldn't replace her as a teammate. And so I raised about $21,000 for the Cancer Society. So we did a good drive, had a lot of people behind us, and yeah.
Yeah, and why don't you let Wade? By the way, I'm only name dropping because Anna's the famous one. And Wade, you said that's freaking you out. That's the Isle of Man flag, dude. Come on. If you don't know what that is, if you're watching the show and you don't know what that is, Google it, please, right now, and then educate yourself. So, why? Okay, tell everybody what bike you decided to sell the 1,000 on. You went from racing a KDX 200 and other KXs, small bikes, to...
Well, I raced an XR 650, and I chose, at that time, the 450s had just come out.
Yep.
And so I went to Johnny Campbell, and I asked him what he thought I should do. And he said, you will never go wrong with an XR 650. And yes, I said, once I learned how to start it, then that was the bike. That was the bike to ride.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a monster, but it was the bike.
Yeah, we pre-ran. It was awesome. I borrowed an XR 400, and I'm with, like, seriously, I've got no clue what I'm doing. Like, I still don't have any clue what I'm doing. But I mean, back then I'd been riding a motorcycle for 4 years. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I borrowed an XR 400, and I show up, and Anna's on an XR 650 that you got from Quinn, right?
Right.
This, like, hammered old pre-run bike at Quinn's, and it's just like...
The steering bearings were out, so we had to fix them in the morning before we even started.
Yeah. The whole thing was a joke. I mean, it was like this... And I just remember getting out and going down the road to get to the first dirt section, and Anna and everybody just... Whoa! And I'm like... Well, this is as fast as the XR 400 goes. And they just left. I'm like, what? And finally they realized that my bike wasn't fast, and they came back and they stayed with me the whole time. But it was hilarious. And that year you were pitting with Honda, right?
Yeah.
So Honda was taking care of her. And like I said, 3 hours she beat me by. So you got into La Paz in the somewhat daylight,
It was
right?
still daylight. But yeah. Honda had a speed limit, and speed requirement, and if you didn't ride that fast, they'd close the pits, which meant I couldn't go dilly-dally around. I had to haul butt the whole entire time.
Yeah.
I think I stopped for 45 minutes in Laredo, and that was after I tangled up with a trophy truck.
Yeah. And so, what happened there?
Well, that was an interesting thing. There was one section right in Laredo and it was real tight, and it was real silty, and pre-running, I was worried about it the whole entire time. Coming back, that was the only section that worried me. So I came in there, and there was a guy in front of me, and he was just really floundering. I was trying to get around him, and I spun out in the corner. And so the wheel was kind of like hanging over the ditch and the rut. And every time I tried to move it, it kept going further in the course. So at that point, the dreaded sound you don't ever want to hear when your bike is in the middle of a course.
Yeah.
And so I had about 3 seconds to figure out what I was going to do. And I was like, you know what? I've come this far. I've had all these people behind me, and this guy is going to come around the corner in this trophy truck and take this bike out. So I threw myself in front of the motorcycle, and the truck comes around the corner, lights up, and here I am just like screaming and like, no! And so he pitches the front wheel, it comes out of the ditch. So now the front wheel is going to miss the bike, but the back end's coming around. So now the co-driver and I have got the net. We're eye to eye, and his eyes were like that. He was just like, what is going on? And I'm like, no! So they get past me, and now I have the back of the truck. So the only thing I could think of doing was throwing myself on the trophy truck and pushing as hard as I could to try to get that back end and not run my bike over. And I did that just out of sheer nuttiness. And it missed my bike by just, that much. It was insane. And you could hear the whole side of his truck getting ripped off because of trees and bushes and stuff. And so that happens, and I run over, and you know how they talk about adrenaline giving you strength? I picked my XR 650 up. I don't know what part of it. And I drug it like 4 yards out into the bushes, just like, oh my God, and I'm standing there, and I could hear like this banging and like this knocking. And I realized that my knees were shaking so hard that my knee pads were slamming into each other.
Yes.
And then I peed.
There we go.
Yeah. So that was gnarly.
Yeah.
I got to meet that driver just a couple years back.
Oh, really?
And
Who was it?
Al Hogan.
Oh, no kidding.
I started talking to him about it, and he looked at me for it was like this really awkward moment, like a 20-second pause. And I thought, oh God, he's going to be pissed because he ripped the whole side of his truck off,
Yeah.
And he says, well, I'll be darned. He goes, I remember that. And he's from up in Montana. He goes, I remember thinking, what crazy son of a gun is doing this? So that was, he could have taken me down right there.
Oh yeah. That if you guys don't know what an 800 horsepower V8 sounds like, that is the sound of terror when you're on a motorcycle. There is nothing worse than the sound of one of those things coming up behind you. I got passed by even more of them than Anna did, but I remember I had I think legit PTSD afterwards, because I'd be riding in a truck all the way up the Baja Peninsula on the way home, with my back seized up because I couldn't move because of being an idiot. And I would hear V8s behind me, and I'd look back, and my friends are like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, I swear I hear trophy trucks," and they're like, "Morgan, there's no trophy truck. We're in a car on the highway." I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And no joke, for I don't know, it must have been a year after that. Every time I get on a motorcycle, I hear trophy trucks. Every time I go out riding bicycles, I'd hear trophy trucks behind me. And it's oh my gosh, it's the absolute worst.
Yeah.
That is, by the way, ridiculous. Because if you guys don't know, XR 650s with gas in them, over 300 pounds. So I don't care who you are, to pick one up and move it just without the engine running is freaking crazy. Any question? Okay, so Brian Wood says, Anna, with you being from Santa Barbara, did you ever ride at Munoz Motorcycle Park in Simi Valley?
No.
No. Bummer. Well, I don't know, maybe not.
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, look at that. So we don't know what that is.
I don't.
Oh, Months Motorcycle Park? Anything?
No.
Anna Brian, what you have to understand is that she's from that area, but her house might as well be on Mars. Someone asked earlier if it had running water. No. I mean, it has gravity-fed running water because John built this. He hand dug a well. I think it's 30 feet-ish. Mm-hmm. And then built a pump out of an old Honda generator or something, and then pumps water to a cistern that's 2,500 feet up, or 2,500 gallons and way up high, and then it gravity feeds. What's your favorite bike? Sam asks.
YZ250.
Yes, I love it because it's so good. Justin Hansen asks, what bike do you ride now?
A KTM 350.
Oh, okay, right on. And it's a XCF?
Yeah.
Nice. And then how did that shake taste? Oh yeah, how did the shake taste at Nitro Circus? Because Anna took this. Anna won a set of tires at the Nitro Circus in Grand Junction by drinking the most nasty thing I've ever seen. And how was it?
I didn't even taste it. I just slammed it as hard as I could. And the hot sauce was intense. I came back to the stands and sweated for 25 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Anna went back to her old days of drinking. Neither Anna and I drink anymore. And she channeled her old drinking self and drank the whole thing without tasting any of it.
But there was no alcohol in it.
No, yeah.
But
yeah.
I pretended I was like beer ponging.
Yes. Justin says, do you still race? Do you still race, Anna?
I will be, yes. I've raced, on and off the last few years a little bit. But I'm planning on, after this last year of not being able to ride, I'm planning on racing here in Colorado.
Yes.
And just for fun, all my days of chasing championships
Just
are over.
for fun. If you guys haven't ridden with Anna, we need to get together. She's been off the bike for a year. She had a bad crash out in Dry Creek. She's back on it. There's no just for fun with Anna. It's just like riding with every other person you've ever ridden with. It turns into a race every time, which is why I go beat up on her in the rocks if I can.
You've almost killed me. How many times since I've been here?
A few.
I'm a desert racer, so all this tight technical stuff is taking me a while to get used to.
So Pete asked, because maybe he didn't read here before, what made you get into riding racing? Family, and what made you go race? Because he said that Kendall's dad took you to the first one.
Yeah, Kendall's dad was a good friend of our family, and at that time he was racing ISDE. He was #1 desert champion, and so we were all interested in it. And he's like, "Come with us," and it was pretty cool because I had to race my dad's 390, and I wasn't tall enough to start it.
She's 12. 12 years old, 390, two-stroke, right?
Yeah.
Husqvarna.
Yeah.
Think about that, everybody.
It was a Le Mans start, and it was the good old days when District 37 was really, really fun. And they allowed my dad to run with me and kick the bike over for me. So he ran, kicked the bike over. I came John Wayne style, jumped on the bike, took off. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So Justin says, what are 3 tips to getting faster? I'm excited to hear this because I need to know.
Ride.
Yes! I love it. But yeah.
That's the only way, just pick your weaknesses and just keep on doing it.
Yeah. As my friend Fritz told me when I asked him the same question many, many years ago, and Fritz is not as nice as Anna. Fritz, if you ever watch this, I hope you do. I love you, but you're definitely not a nice guy all the time. And everybody here knows that too. But I asked him, I was like, how do I get faster? And he just looked at me and he's like, dude, buy tires and gas. I'm like race gas? What are you talking about? And then he's like, no, ride your dumb motorcycle so much that you need to buy tires and gas for it. I'm like, oh, okay. So clearly I have not purchased enough tires and gas because I'm still not very fast, but I'm trying really hard.
Out there.
And how many #1 plates do you have, District 37?
13.
Yeah! There you go, Justin Hansen. 13. You got a lot of catching up to do. Tori Anderson, you don't have that many weaknesses. Well, maybe a few. But the single trail, you get nervous when the trail gets narrow. So we got to work on that. It's kind of like Anna, actually. Anna, when the trail gets less than 4 feet wide, Anna gets...
Remember the day I made you ride my bike across that mountain?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do remember
Yeah.
that.
I chicken out sometimes.
It happens.
It happens.
But not that never happens when it's open and fast and there's whoops. So, let's see. Here's a question. When do you think you are going to go to your first race, and when can we tell all these people that's going to happen so we can cheer you on?
Probably, I think there's something coming up in June. Is there a Corks race coming up? Or
There's a Corks. Yeah, well, there's a Corks and a Weeby.
In June, okay.
I'm going to try to get her to go to a Corks race with us because we're trying to hit all the rest of them if we can. So we'll try to get her out to that. Mm-hmm. We'll make a big announcement so everybody can come out and cheer Anna.
Jeez, please. I think Corks is having their 12-hour race, and Nicole and Denise and Bernie and I raced it a couple years ago, so it would be really cool if the 4 of us could do it again. I think it's in August.
Okay, yeah. Right on. There we go. Oh, Jim Wells asked, have you ever ridden or raced in the East?
I have not. The furthest I've been is Colorado, I think.
So yeah, Anna has spent all of her time going really fast out in the desert. So that's why like I said, get her in the trees, and it's awesome.
I am getting better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah. When she says she's not good at it, it's ridiculous. Like, that's not true. So the other thing that I just need to mention is Anna's not really good at maintenance on motorcycles because she's been so fast for so long that everybody else has done it for her. And so
we're getting old, and when the glory goes away, you have to learn how to do
someone
it yourself.
now she actually has to do things. So we're gonna work on that. Brady, we're totally bringing her to the Gold Rush. She's been saying she's going to go to the Gold
I
Rush.
promise, I'm telling everybody right now, I'm going this year.
Yes.
I'm not going to miss it this year.
I love it. There we go. Because seriously, yeah, like it's ridiculous. Brady, you have to come to the Gold. If Anna comes to the Gold Rush, you have to come to the Gold Rush. That's all there is to it. Anyway, yeah, you should go back and do a D37, like the round one with us.
You know, I'm terrified. As many years as I've raced desert, I've always hated bomb runs. And I've always sucked at it. And I have to work my way up through everybody. And having been away from it for so long, I'm terrified.
Yeah,
if they would have a start by class or, start by 10 people at a time, I'd be totally into it. But 200 people terrifies me nowadays.
Yeah, it's a little much.
Yeah.
Well, and Steve knows all about that. Because Steve is our buddy who, he said January next year. Steve is our buddy who, during the bomb run, fell off and broke his arm because a guy hit him. So,
yeah.
So that's the thing about bomb runs. It's a little bit on the terrifying side.
Yeah.
One last question for Anna from you guys. Whoever gets the next question up will answer that, or she'll answer that. And then we're going to boogie because Anna actually has work now.
I actually have to work these days.
Sadly.
Yeah.
So do I, which is a bummer. Justin says you're a chicken.
Yeah, I am. Maybe we'll see. I might get over it.
Justin, 13 number one plates. 13, dude. Here's a question until you guys come up with one. Anna, do you like tacos? And if you like tacos, what are your favorite kind of tacos?
I love tacos and carne asada.
Nice. Right on. That's the most important question we can ask on this show.
Nothing's better than that taco stand in Valley Tea.
Yes, absolutely. Vita Trinidad, best place ever. What is your favorite place to ride in Colorado? So far. She hasn't seen all of Colorado.
I haven't seen all of it. I would say, I've only ridden in this local area, right where we're at. So I would say probably up on is it the plateau that we go up on in the summertime?
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of my favorite place. I absolutely loved it when we went to Utah, Green Valley.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Green River.
Yeah, Green River. Yeah.
Green River. We rode from Green River over to Whitewash Sand Dunes, Debinky, and then back. And we did finally make it back. Everybody ran out of gas except for me, so it was a bit of a thing.
It's pretty cool where you took me for the death march, although I had no time to enjoy it. You almost killed me, but yeah.
Yeah, Anna finished the death march too. Everybody who has bailed out and chickened out on the death march, she finished it. So
the worst thing I've ever done, ever.
Come on,
it's absolutely horrible.
It's not that bad. It's not that bad. All right, guys, we're gonna boogie. We both have work to do. Lindsay, Wes, good to see you here. Thank you guys so much for joining in and asking Anna questions. Anna is on the Facebooks. I think you're probably locked out. You probably can't have any more friends on Facebook because everybody on Earth wants to be Anna's friend on Facebook. But I'm gonna set her up like a sports profile page.
Oh, geez.
So she can have even more friends. But yeah, thanks guys. Punk Rock Club, thanks for watching to the end.
Thanks guys.
We appreciate it, and both of us really hope you get out and ride your dirt bikes!